Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I want to talk to you today about a show, or more particularly, an anime that I've mentioned before in live streams that is Kimi ni Toroke, or From Me to You. So, this show actually came out in 2010, and I was watching it as it came out back then, but Netflix has finally added it to their list of shows that you can watch. They did that right around the time that I got sick, so I went ahead and rewatched this entire anime, which was really nice to be able to watch something from when I was younger that I really enjoyed and can look back at now and see some aspects of maybe why that was and maybe how that can connect to autistic youth today. I will say that the show does kind of start a bit heavy-handed in my opinion. However, I really hope that you'll give it a chance if you feel that way. Just this is kind of looking back at it. So maybe it's not heavy-handed for some of you, especially if you are younger. So the main character, Kuronoma Sawako, is not good at connecting with other people. And this is to the point where she has like one friend. And unfortunately, as of the setting of the show, that one friend is in another class. So she has one friend throughout like all of her schooling thus far. And by that I mean like person who is friendly to her at school but probably doesn't really connect with her much outside of school. At one point she even recounts how she adapted a lot of games to be like from two-person to one-person games as a child, which is kind of depressing. People have given her the nickname Sadako from The Ring, so that's Sadako instead of Sawako. Um, Basically, she seems like a creepy ghost girl with the way her hair is, and when she's so like nervous to come up to people, she kind of comes up like hunched a little bit, and so her hair's down kind of in front of her face, and it gives that same vibe, I guess, as the Japanese ghost in The Ring. So even when she tries to reach out and greet people, they tend to run away scared or say sorry and don't give her the time of day. I think that this show appealed to me a lot more when I was younger because I feel like I probably projected a lot of my teenage angst onto the characters and what was going on. But I still think that this is a great show that has a lot to say about the value of communication. I wouldn't say that Sawako necessarily completely fits the bill for autism. However, she does hit a lot of marks that might be considered autistic traits. She has quite the lack of social awareness, and if that were to be paired with restrictive, repetitive actions and interests, she might have been considered autistic for sure. And I really think that's why I identified so much with Sawako as a teenager. While she is aware that she is seen as an outcast or someone who is undesirable, she doesn't always understand when she's being bullied, and often to what extent. She also has a really low self-esteem to where she kind of just anticipates that, of course, because it's her, it's natural that people would get the wrong idea or see being with her or in a relationship with her as a punishment, and finds those things to kind of just be like, okay, yeah, that's what happens, that's who I am, that's how people see me. And it's just this kind of like strangely positive depressing acceptance of this status of complete and utter outcast and this ghost role, which cracks me up about the ghost role because she sees it as somehow people have this new expectation that she's a ghost and she can talk to spirits or whatever. And even though they're using it often to be mean, she wants to be able to live up to that standard. She's like, they're going to be so disappointed when they find out that I can't actually communicate with spirits. Playing into her lack of social awareness, she also doesn't always understand how some of the things she says or does accidentally play into the image of being Sadako. And so it is kind of funny. There's definitely like little moments where she unwittingly kind of adds to that image. Another pretty relatable thing is that she's not really good at forced smiling, but she tries to, right? To be nice to other people. And it comes off looking really creepy when she tries to force one. I think this is kind of funny because if you look at pictures of a lot of autistic people, when they try to smile on command, it doesn't look It does not look happy at all, but a genuine happy smile on someone when they're genuinely happy, not forcing it, especially an autistic person, looks totally different, and we'll see that also in the story here with Sawako. When people catch her naturally smiling, it pretty much takes everyone's breath away, because they've never seen that side of her. On her first day of school, she ends up telling a classmate, Kazuhaya Shota, directions to their school because he's wearing their school uniform and he looks lost. It'll be this same Kazuhaya that she ends up admiring because he's really socially aware and he's not arrogant, but he's really liked and popular with the class, and just everybody likes being able to talk with him. He's just a really nice guy. And so she sees him and she admires his ability to connect with other people. This is especially driven by her feeling that she is forgettable and unseen, which other characters will throughout the series kind of point out that she does stick out, but in a bad way. So Kazuhaya at one point overhears her talking to her one school friend, and it could have, I guess, been taken wrong, and her friend says, "Oh, you need to apologize," because he probably thought that was an insult. But Kazuhaya stops and he asks Sawako what she meant by that. She tells him that was meant to be a compliment. He laughs and he talks with her more. This is really important for Sawako because people don't tend to stop and listen to her. People just make their conclusions and they move on. And I think this was another thing that really struck me with Sawako is like, someone can hear me. Someone can finally hear me and understand and is giving me the time of day to actually believe me. A lot of times, if she had said, "Oh, no, that was a compliment," people would have been like, "Oh, right. Okay, you're gonna lie about it now, you're insulting me, etc." And for Kazuhaya to stop and, like, talk with her, that's a big deal. And this really sets off a whole theme about communication and being misunderstood, which, again, story of my life, often misunderstood, often a lot of negative things attributed to me and my intentions without that being the case. Mostly because of my social unawareness, and very similarly for her, or just things were just in general a misunderstanding and they take off. And so basically there's this theme of Kazuhaya helping her to clear up these misunderstandings and being able to actually communicate and handle issues and stuff like that. Now, obviously, not all of this goes super smoothly because she is the creepy girl that they call Sadako. But before we continue, I would like to thank today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by me and my new merch shop on Fourth Wall. I'm excited to share this new shop with you because I feel these tees are softer and nicer than the ones I could offer through my previous site. Check out a variety of designs relating to autism, neurodivergence, and occupational therapy. I enjoy creating a variety of designs to meet things that I would like to see, and I hope that these are designs that you all enjoy as well. You can find these to purchase for yourself at stephanie-bethany-shop.fourthwall.com, or more simply, you can go check out the description box and I'll have it linked there as well. Thank you so much for your support by purchasing from my store. Now, back to the video. So like I said before, Sawako sometimes would take those negative things that people would say, like, "Ooh, she can talk to spirits," and she would feel like those were traits that she should be able to have, and there were expectations that she would let other people down if, like, those weren't things that she could do. So she's a perpetually positive thinker, and it's really interesting because of how much of a dichotomy that is, how poorly she thinks of herself and yet sees everything else as like they must mean the best out of the situation. And I can relate to that too. Like feeling like a worthless piece of trash, but surely this person who did this thing, like, they wouldn't possibly actually mean something mean. Like, I must have misunderstood, or they misunderstood and that's why they said that. They couldn't have, just like this whole, like, weird, twisted kind of like sense of innocence about others, possibly because we don't tend to have those intentions ourselves. I don't know. Anyway, this leads to some interesting things where she even at one point starts researching how to tell ghost stories because it would just fit her image, and people thought it'd be really, like, scary to hear her tell a ghost story. It's a whole thing. But either way, Kazuhaya helps her, and she starts to actually make actual friends, people who wanna hang out with her and be with her other than, like, around school, and this is really new because people were taking lots for, like, where they had to sit in the classroom and were freaking out for having to sit anywhere near her, for example. And then something terrible happens again, and a misunderstanding happens, and situations where basically these new friends, these people who accept her and are being kind to her, they stop being like that. They stop being her friends because of this misunderstanding. And while it's not as cut and dry as that, and you'll see, it really went on about how hard it is to go back to being so lonely, mistreated, and ignored after people have been kind and accepting towards you. She starts crying, and it's like, well, yeah, like, you've lived your whole entire life like this and you're used to it. But when that changes, it's so hard to going back. And that's why losing friends for autistic people can be so freaking devastating because there's finally someone who's hearing you and understanding you and giving you the time of day and believing you and not just pushing you out as an outcast. So any sort of misunderstanding that could get in the way, any sort of abandonment is like ridiculously difficult for autistic people. And so we see that happen for Sawako as well. We see her navigate friendship and kind of getting closer to other people also throughout the series. And there's even this moment where they work on calling each other by their first names with the, I don't know what you would call that, suffix, with the add-on chan instead of like san. But when you call someone by their first name, this is significant in Japan and in some other East Asian cultures. But basically, most of the time, people are calling each other by their last name and then san, kun, chan, just like different things that mean different levels of familiarity with that person and also your role with each other. So this is important in friendship. You wouldn't want to treat someone all officially and separately when you're saying that you're close to your friends. So they have this whole moment where they like officially talk about how they're going to change how they talk to each other. And Sawako's like, "Wow, how do you guys do that so smoothly?" And I really appreciate having the friends, her kind of new friends or whatever perspective, the internal thoughts on this. This wasn't smooth. This was really awkward. And she's admiring us for this very smooth way of making friends. And it's just like really kind of interesting to see both sides and that really being pointed out for the viewer as well, in case you were to start thinking like Sawako, or maybe you don't have as much insight. I just like how they kind of are able to point that out with other characters' inner thoughts and sometimes spoken words. Throughout the series, we see, of course, themes about communication and friendship and loneliness and one-sided crushes and what it's like to feel like existing as someone's friend is burdensome, or how maybe different people's statuses can affect them and what other people think, and just having to consider all these very social things and these hard feelings and situations that navigates a lot of that. And I think that was really beneficial for me to see Sawako going through because I also feel like it's a really tangled, messy web. And of course, it is in general, but suddenly thinking about how is someone else perceiving me and how is this relationship, how are they also being seen? That's a lot of people and perspectives to think about. It doesn't necessarily come naturally for autistic people. And so of course, we come to the thoughts that, again, I can totally relate to of I'm being a burden by being someone's friend. I'm making their life worse by existing as someone in their life because they have to be thoughtful and mindful of me. Just a lot of those self-doubt and self-hatred and just low self-esteem kind of thoughts that often come from being autistic and isolated and alone. So, I mean, sure, that doesn't have to be just an autistic thing, but socially isolated and being alone and not really having those connections can make it feel like you're doing something wrong by having a positive connection with other people. We also see this concept of building someone else up as though they're like perfect. For example, with Kazuhaya, he is so popular and so nice and all these things. And it's so easy when you have someone who's been kind to you, especially for like the first time, and you start looking up to them, you see them almost as perfection. Of course, you know in your head they're not perfect, but they're like this being. And if you do something wrong and disappoint them, that becomes terrifying. What if I do this and this perfect being that I look up to so much is going to be disappointed by me or be hated by me or be inconvenienced by me? And I really, really, really like that they go into this concept of how we can build other people up into being more than human almost, and stop seeing them as another human being with their own sets of feelings and ideas and thoughts, and kind of project our own, and a lot of times our own insecurities. And I just think it was really, really interesting to be able to see that again. I don't know if I really got to pick that up the first time I watched it as a teenager. And so I really, really like that aspect of the story and really being able to like look at that. And it's really interesting coming in as an adult because a lot of times I couldn't understand the other perspective. I couldn't understand the people around Sawako sometimes. And rewatching, I started getting kind of irritated and frustrated with Sawako like her friends had because she was so down on herself. This was how I was for like the longest time. And sure I have moments like this and I'm unfortunately, it's the internet and I share way too much with you guys, so you've probably seen some of it, but it was really bad. And I was very similar to Sawako in that way. And it was frustrating watching again and being like, no, like, what are you talking about? These people want to be your friends. You got to stop doing this. You're sabotaging something for no good reason. And being able to see that now is really just very interesting. So, what I'm trying to say is that they explore a lot of themes and concepts that I think are really, really important, especially to people who might be socially isolated, whether that's autistic or otherwise, who might have difficulty making friends, who might have trouble with just knowing that it's okay for them to exist. Again, that's not necessarily just an autistic thing, but it tends to be present in a lot of autistic people. So as I've been rambling on about how much I really like the themes and stuff, I also really like how they work with the characters and the good and bad sides of everyone. Like, no one's just like this perfect being. We don't have the whole like Mary Sue situation going on, even though you might think it's kind of happening for a minute. We get to kind of really see the characters as dynamic, and I really, really like that about the show. I can't recommend it enough, honestly. I really, really enjoyed it. So even if it seems a little heavy-handed, there's a few episodes where I'm like, okay, we get it. But when it was initially airing, I really was into it. So I really think that it would be a good choice for autistic youth or neurodivergent youth to check out. Now, apparently this has been added to Netflix. I'm assuming this is why. Because they actually have a Netflix original like live action version coming out actually March 30th, which as of this very recording, like me sitting here, is tomorrow. So who knows how that's going to go. I'm kind of interested in seeing how they interpret the story in a live action, actual people kind of setting. Hopefully it goes well. I may come back to share my thoughts on the live action one. I don't know. We'll see about it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have seen Kimi ni Toroke, share your thoughts in the comment. And if you haven't, hopefully it's interesting enough from what I was trying to tell you for you to check it out, maybe give it a few episodes, see if you like it as well. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy hearing autism-related content from me. Thank you to everyone who supports me here on YouTube as YouTube channel members, through Ko-fi, and as patrons on Patreon. And a special thank you to my Spinny Stimmy tier patrons, Philip Noah, Jack Varney, and Snowbird. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!